Salvete omnes. This is Abbey Latin Liber Primus, Chapter 11. This is the morphology lesson of Chapter 11, the third declension, neuter gender. This will be very similar to the last chapter, which was the third declension, masculine and feminine. The endings, blank is e m a, es ibus es ibus. Third declension, neuter, very similar, a little bit different, but yes, very similar. To review, the parts of speech are nouns, pronouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections. We are once again working with nouns. Nomen. We finally get to decline nomen because that's a third declension neuter. Nomen, nominus, neuter. To review, you look at the genitive singular form when trying to figure out a noun's declension. So if you go looking through the dictionary, which I know you all do for fun, say you come across the Latin word for girl. Girl, what's that? Well, puella, I, feminine. The dictionary gives you the nominative singular, the genitive singular, and if the dictionary can abbreviate it, as if the stem does not change, the dictionary will abbreviate. Save space. Then there's the noun's gender, and then it'll usually come with the English definition. So puella, I, feminine, girl. And you look at that genitive singular ending, that AE pronounced I, and you know, because you studied, that this is the marker for the first declension. That first declension nouns have genitive singulars ending in AE pronounced I, like puella, I, feminine. Agricola, I, masculine, even though some nouns, a handful of them in the first declension, are masculine gender, the majority of them are feminine. Agricola, I, masculine happens to be one of those masculine nouns. It is declined exactly the same way as the feminine forms. So once you find the noun's declension, then you go to the genitive singular, and that's going to be puellae. You chop off that AE pronounced I ending to get the noun stem. The stem of the noun puella will be puel. The stem of agricola will be agricole, which you get from taking the genitive singular agricolae and then chopping off the AE pronounced I, the ending, to get agricole as the stem. Then you add first declension endings to that stem. The first declension endings are a, with a make run over the A, arm, is, as, is. So puella, puellae, puellae, puellam, puella, puellae, puellarum, puellis, puellas, puellis. And agricola will be declined exactly the same way. Now for the second declension, the genitive singular ends in the letter I, pronounced E, so amicus, E, masculine. These nouns can be masculine, or they can be neuter in gender. The masculines can also have nominatives ending in er, like puer or ager, or they can end in ir, like vir, vir, viri masculine. What they all have in common is the genitive singular ends in an I, letter I, pronounced E. So amicus, E, masculine, puer, pueri, masculine, ager, agri, masculine, vir, viri, masculine. So these decline by taking the genitive singular ending, like amici, and then chopping off the genitive singular I, pronounced E, to get the stem amic, and then you add second declension masculine endings. Most of them have nominatives in us, so us, e, o, e, orum, is, os, is. Remember, this is very important. Whatever the dictionary says the nominative is, that is the noun's nominative. So if the dictionary says the noun's nominative is puer, that is the nominative. Puer, pueri, puero, puerum, puero, pueri, puerorum, pueris, pueros, pueris. Ager, agri declines like ager, agri. The stem is agr when you chop off the I from the genitive singular. ager, agri. The dative is agro, then agrum, then agro. Agri, agrorum, agris, agros, agris. If the noun is neuter and has a genitive singular ending in the letter I pronounced E, like bellum E neuter, well, these are pretty easy. The endings are e, o, a, orum, is, a, is. And then those endings are added to the stem, which is found the exact same way by going to the genitive singular, belli, and chopping off the I to get the stem bell. Cool. Armed with that information, as we learned last chapter, the third declension has nouns whose genitive singular ends in the letters is, pronounced is. If a noun has an is in the genitive singular, the noun belongs to the third declension. At last chapter, we learned about nouns that are masculine or feminine gender. They share the same endings, the third declension. So a noun like mater, matris, feminine, where the nominative is mater, because that's what the dictionary told you it is, and then the genitive is matris, and the stem is matra, where you chop off the is genitive singular ending to get the stem matra, M-A-T-R, and then you add the third declension masculine feminine endings to that stem. Blank is E-M-A, ace ibus ace ibus. Now, here's where the game changes a little bit. If you come across a noun with an is as an ending for the genitive singular, like caput, capitis, that's still a third declension, but look, the gender is neuter, not masculine, not feminine, so it does not use the endings blank is ema, ace ibus ace ibus. Those are the masculine feminine endings. These use the neuter third declension endings, so these are neuter, slightly different. Slightly different. Be careful. Always pay attention to the noun's gender. Nomen, nominus, neuter means name. Now, as you learned, back when you learned the second declension neuter, if it's a neuter noun, the nominative and the accusative should be the same. So if the nominative is bellum, second declension neuter, the accusative will be bellum. If the nominative plural bellum is bella, then the accusative plural must be bella. Well, the same rule applies. If the nominative is nomen, then the accusative singular must be nomen. If the nominative singular is iter, the accusative singular must be iter. And tempus, and tempus, and caput, and caput. However, all the other forms must use the noun stem, which we still get from the genitive singular. We still chop off the is to get the stem. So nomen stem is nomen. And then you add the third declension neuter endings. Blank is e, same as nominative, a ibus ibus. Notice that, like the second declension, the difference between the masculine and the neuter lies between the nominative and the accusative. And once again, the plural for the neuter is the letter a, is a. So we have nomina, itinera, tempora, capita. All together, let's see what these things sound like. Let's hear what these things sound like. Nomen, nominus, nomini, nomen, same as nominative, nomine, nomina, nominum, nominibus, nomina, nominibus. For iter, itineris, we get iter, the genitive itineris, the stem is itiner when you chop off the is, itineri, iter, itinere, itinera, itinera, itinerum, itineribus, itinera, itineribus. tempus, temporis, tempori, tempus, tempore, tempora, temporum, temporibus, tempora, temporibus. Caput, capitis, capiti, caput, capite, capita, capitum, capitibus, capita, capitibus. Optime. All right, let's try it out one more time.
Flumen, fluminous, neuter, river, flumen, fluminous, neuter, river. Fluminous, is, fluminous, is. Neuter, slightly different endings. Blank, whatever the dictionary says the nominative is. Same as the nominative. Whatever the nominative is, the accusative singular is as well. A, ibus, ibus. Blank is same as nominative, ibus, ibus. Lumen. Luminous. The accusative is the same as the nominative. Blank, whatever the dictionary says the nominative is, fluminous, flumini. The noun is neuter. Its accusative singular must be the same as the nominative singular. Flumen, flumen. Flumine. Flumina. Fluminum. Ibus. Flumenibus. Flumina. Ibus. Flumenibus. Flumen, fluminous, flumini, flumen, flumine, flumina, fluminum, flumenibus, flumina, flumenibus.
Now, you get to practice. You try. Nomen, nominus, neuter, name. Okay, as usual, this is the nominative. The nominative is nomen. The genitive, there it is. It's nominus. Ends in is. Is. That means it's a third declension. Chop off the is to get the stem. The stem is nomen. Now notice it's a third declension neuter, so be careful. The stem goes here and here. Make sure that in the accusative, it's the same. It's the same as the nominative. The stem is used throughout in the plural. And then we add endings. We already have the is. The endings are blank, is, e, same as nominative a. Ibus, ibus. Is, e, same as nominative a, ibus, ibus. Nomen, nominus, nomini, nomen, nomine, nomina, nominum, nominibus, nomina, nominibus. Optime, very well done. You are now ready to try your hand at exercise A. Vale te omnes.